Coming to you from sunny California and the Great White North. Get ready. We are breaking down the obstacles on the Armchair Ninja Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Armchair Ninja Podcast. It is Friday, February 24th, 2017. My name is Rich, and joining me to cover the stupendous, amazing, fantastic ANW All Star Special is Bijan. How you making out?
I'm doing good, man. Apparently you're doing better than me.
I loved it. I can't say it enough. I've been telling everyone to watch it. I don't care if you're a fan of the show or not. That was some quality television.
Yeah, it was good. And definitely the All Star episodes are always amazing to watch. It's just so incredibly fun. And I guess there's not so much of the drama and all of that, you know, that stress involved. It's just an all-out fun environment. And you can just see all the enthusiasm with all the ninjas. It was really fun, man.
Yeah, that is perfect, because that's exactly the same thing I thought. The atmosphere seems amazing. I don't want to go to Vegas to watch the finals. I prefer watching it on TV. But I would love to see the All Star Special in person. I think that must be fantastic to watch.
Mm-hmm. So, Rich, what time is it right now?
What time is it?
It's ANW recap time, bruh. Let's get this.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, we got to do ANW for sure. We are also going to do Ninja Warrior UK. It's just going to be such a monstrous episode. We're just going to be excited from end to end.
I said it's ANW recap time. I'm not even trying to put into my mind that trash, which is UK Ninja Warrior. Let's get in all out on this show. I've been waiting months to say that again. I am so happy ANW is back. Let's cover this.
Yeah, let's do it. So we are going to cover that, and we're going to cover some other ninja tunes from around the web. But let's get into it. ANW All Stars, man, I obviously loved it a lot. So they had the team competition and then the skills competition. And this year, Team Christine took the field, which was great. I thought that was a really nice touch. They had 3 teams this time. Looking at the teams, we had Team Christine, which was Jesse Graff, Nicholas Coolidge, and Flip Rodriguez, versus Team Akbar, which is Grant McCartney, Neil Craver, and Meagan Martin, and Team Matt, which was Chris Wilczewski, Nagi Richardson, and Jesse Lebrecht. So, right off the bat, what did you think of the teams?
I liked them. I know there was a lot of blowback, everybody being like, those teams seem even, Christine's team this, blah, blah, blah. You know, I feel like everybody had to give these teams a chance. Obviously, we've seen a whole lot more of Christine's team, or the competitors on Christine's team, but I actually I thought they were quite all right, you know. Matt's team had an equal chance of winning that that final stage, so I actually like the teams quite a bit. The question to you, Rich, is a lot of people were wondering why there weren't, or at least from what I saw online, a lot of blowback of everybody being like, why isn't there Jeff Britton on a team? Why isn't there Drew Dreschel? Why isn't there Daniel Gill? Why isn't there Brian Arnold? All these people. I have a feeling, I'm pretty damn sure I know why none of those competitors were chosen. Do you have an idea of why that was?
I don't know an official response. My thought was that they really wanted to hammer home some new All-Stars. They really wanted to put Nagi Richardson and Jesse Lebrecht in front of us as much as they possibly could. But yeah, I was actually wondering the same thing, because I was getting a little frustrated that Nagi must have been freaking exhausted by the end of the night, for one. Like, trying to compete against Drew Dreschel in that supersonic shelf grab, which was amazing, and we'll get to. But after doing like all these different stages and all these different competitions, like, give the guy a break. Come on, there's other people there.
Hey, you know, Nagi, he definitely stood out, and I'm gonna have a lot more to say about Nagi and some competitors that stood out. Definitely for the skills. I think for the skills competition, we can have a better discussion about why people were chosen for those competitions. You know, I was very curious the people that they had, but for this team competition side, the one thing that definitely stood out, because I was thinking about it, and I think they were alluding to it quite a bit on the final part where they're on stage 3, which was all of the competitors on all the teams, the 9 competitors, the thing that was different about them compared to the competitors that weren't on the show, that the people that, you know, everybody's bringing up, like Jeff Britton, Drew Dreschel, and all that, they all have one thing in common. And that one thing in common is that everybody on these teams has never made it to stage 3. That, I think, is the big thing. That Christine, Matt, and Akbar, they had a slate of competitors to choose from, and those competitors had to have not made it to stage 3. So I think we had a great opportunity to see people like Nicholas Coleridge, people like Nagi, people even like Jesse Graff compete on stage 3 obstacles and further stage 2 obstacles, and just see new people on these things that we're not sure if they can do them yet. And it was really fun to see. I think that had a lot to do with it, because obviously if we have a Drew Dreshel on stage 2, I mean, come on, we know it's about to happen. But I found it incredibly refreshing seeing people like Flip Rodriguez on stage 3. It was amazing. That, I think, is the key.
But I think even the show forgot about last year's skills competition. I mean, we saw Jesse Graff versus Meagan Martin on stage 3. We saw Flip Rodriguez. They even said Flip's never been on stage 3 before. Yes, he was. He was in last year's All Star competition.
That's not the same,
I'm totally
bro.
misremembering it.
That is not the same. that is not fair.
No. But to be fair, they've already showcased him on there. So it is a weird choice from that perspective. So I have no problem. I loved beginning to end this whole episode. I was a little curious why. I didn't really have a problem with it. I was just curious why they didn't vary it a little more, right? Give everybody a chance to shine a little bit. And then they chose to fast forward some of the ones that did showcase some other talent. That was really some strange choices.
Well, we're gonna go that we have to separate the two, right? The skills competition from the team.
Yeah, it's hard.
So
it's really
with the
hard.
team competition, I will say that I genuinely feel like it was kind of like how they presented it, where Matt got to choose his team, where Christine got to choose her team, and where Akbar got to choose his team. So when you're looking at it from, I actually do. I think they had a slate of people that have only made it to stage 2, and those are the people that they chose from. I don't think it was as ho-hum that everybody's talking about where the producers chose them. Maybe, but at the end of the day, these are the teams, and I'm quite all right with them. When you look at the teams that were made, they're pretty much the top of the heat when you come to the top men and women that have made it only to stage 2.
Yeah.
I mean, can you give me some replacements? I mean, obviously there's some, but there's not a whole lot. I mean, they're pretty good from what we got.
Like I said, no complaints. I like the teams. I don't really have any problems with the teams at all. You've kind of got the rookie team and the fun team and the Jesse team, really, when it comes down to it. You just want to showcase Jesse some more. That's what it really is. No, I mean, it's fine. I mean, it's the 3 strongest women in ANW. I don't know that anybody could argue any different, right?
Nope.
The 3 of them are the best. And everybody else is probably the best that hasn't made a stage 3. That's totally fine. If that's the limitation, but I just don't know why you would limit it, I guess.
I guess that's a difference of opinion. Let's move on because
okay. Well, let me put it this way to you.
I definitely will say I had no problems with it. I actually preferred it.
Yeah, let me. Everybody has to agree that if you were picking a team, one of the 3 of them would have picked Drew Dreshel. There's no reason on earth not to pick him for one of these 3 teams. So there was some kind of limitation there.
One of them would choose Jeff Britton, but yeah, Drew Dreshel also. Once again, that is the clear distinction of why I think it's pretty obvious. Stage 3, you're automatically canceled out. Brian Arnold, not allowed. Basically anybody that you could think of, they've all made it to stage 3. That's why they stand out to everybody, and that's why they weren't able to do it. The thing that all these teammates have in common is that they've never made a stage 3. Moving on.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. The bottom line, my last thought on it is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who picked them. The teams are great. It was fantastic to watch. I had lots of fun. And let's get into what actually happened, finally. In stage 1, I'm not going to go through all the details of what's in the different stages. I mean, really, do we need to break that all down?
Please don't.
Yeah. So in stage 1, it was really, really good right off the bat. Akbar's team, and as a reminder, that's the Grant, Neil, Megan team, went really fast. The only thing that they did, if you could call it a mess up, was Grant hung on to the log on the backswing and then set down. So they had a really strong start to the whole thing is like they set a really good time, and I didn't know that anybody's going to be able to catch them. Matt came out, or Matt's team, sorry, and they'd made a really odd choice by making Jesse Lebrec the middle part. And sorry, to clarify for those that didn't watch it, they did it in a relay format through stage 1, and Jesse Lebrec took the middle part where she had failed the jumping spider in the regular season. I thought she was going to fall there, but she didn't. But she did end up touching the water on the Sonic Curve, which is just an awful way to go out. Like, of all the things, just a little slip up like that.
Yeah, I found it very interesting, the choice of placement, but I have to remember back to the fact that this is more of a fun environment. It's not taken that seriously, especially by the competitors. I think you can tell that. They aren't like losing their minds, all focused on everything. So I think these placements are actually for the competitors to kind of tackle the obstacles that they failed at previously. You're going to hear quite a theme going on, this whole recap, about how competitors have, traditionally or before failed at a certain obstacle, but yet they're chosen to take on this particular obstacle now. And I think that has a lot to do with it, that they want a second chance at it. And I think that was kind of the reasoning for a placement.
Yeah, it makes some sense. That's what we want to see, right? We want to see some redemption, and it's a good place to do it, I think.
Yeah, especially for the competitors or the ninjas, I definitely can understand why. Like, I can imagine Flex Lebrec being like, no, I want that. I am going to conquer this because I know I could do it. I've been training for a year. I failed yesterday. I'm losing my mind over it. I'm doing it.
Yeah, that's probably a good point. So then Team Christine ran third, and by the time they tagged in Jesse Graff for the final leg of the competition, they had a 6-second lead because Flip Rodriguez didn't do the backswing on the log rip. That's all it really took for them to get ahead, and there was no turning back. They blew through. End up beating the whole thing in a minute 18 versus the minute 25 for Akbar's team, which meant that Christine's team moved on to stage 3. They didn't have to compete on stage 2, that's all right. I don't really have any problem with that format. It's kind of a weird way to break it up, but
no, I like that format quite a bit. It gave us more opportunity, because the only other way to have this format is the least or the worst team automatically dropping out, and I don't really want to see that. So I like the fact that we got to see the two losing teams get one more try to fight on the best team. I actually like that format quite a bit. Now, one thing that definitely stood out to me is this definitely was taped last year, bro, because they kept referencing the damn Running Man and the Nene, and they had this one shot of, oh my God.
It's so painful.
They had Matt's team do the Nene, and it was the most forced, jilted Nene I've ever seen in my life. And it's just so last year and so painful. And it wasn't really an issue of seeing the Running Man, but just they kept doing it over and over and over again, where I'm like, bro, stop. Y'all need to do something else. So I hope Grant McCartney looks back at this and is like, you know what, maybe I need to, diversify my dances quite a little bit this year. I can only hope for that. It's a small little nitpick, but man, it was annoying.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Definitely, I'm sure Grant was thinking the same thing. Like, guys, why are you showing that? That was last year.
Yeah, it's like the old person trying to act cool with the kids. So yeah, why don't you talk about the second part?
Moving on to stage 2, it was Matt versus Akbar, and here we had. I do want to mention one obstacle right away. I love the giant ring swing. I think that is such a cool obstacle. Nagi came out of the gate and missed it at first, but he did recover. I don't know. So in the second part of it, Jesse Lebrec ends up beating the Wave Runner, which they made a big deal out of, but they didn't make a big deal out of the butterfly wall. To me, that actually is kind of momentous. I don't think we've ever had a woman beat the butterfly wall before, have we?
I'm not sure, but the butterfly wall isn't too difficult of an obstacle now that we have that trampoline. I think it was way harder when we didn't, and I didn't think it was very fair, but I'm not going to get into that. The Wave Runner was such a big ninja killer this past season, and I think that's the bigger deal, where that was the obstacle, if I remember correctly, that took out Jesse Graff, right?
Yeah, it is.
So at this point, that's kind of like the obstacle. It's like the stopping point for women in American Ninja Warrior in the main competition. I mean, that's the furthest a woman's gone. So I think that's kind of the main point of it. But not just that, the men also had a really tough time with that obstacle. And you were talking about how much you like the giant ring. I really like the Wave Runner. Such an amazing obstacle. And it's hard to describe without trying it, or, you know, if you've never tried it. But just the technique involved with having to spread out your arms and your shoulders and use different types of muscles, lacheting that makes such a huge difference. With that said, I feel like this particular team competition, and more so later on in the episode, was a big coming out party for 3 in particular ninjas. And I think that this was kind of the part where, you know, we were alluding to earlier, where it kind of showcased some up-and-coming ninjas, which was Nagi Richardson, Flex Labreck, and Nicholas Coleridge. This whole special really showcased them. And I have to say, man, it's making this whole Ninja Warrior poll for next year of the Fantasy League really intriguing. I have some people that are dropping out of my top 5 and some people being added in. And that's all I'll say to that. But it's going to be an interesting next season. Speaking of which, everybody, ANWFantasy.com. Check it out.
Yes, absolutely. And the deadline for that will be coming up soon, because the deadline, you have to get it in before they start running the individual cities.
I'm the defending champ, dudes. Defending champ. Look out.
Yeah, so I have to dethrone you, or I'm not going to hear the end of it.
You're never dethroning me. Or nobody else is either. So
I actually, you know what? I actually took a little bit of an exception to them showing Nagi Richardson so much, because he was one of my top picks before this special, and now I feel like everyone's going to pick him after seeing what he could do.
Hey, you got to go with what your gut is. I mean, there's some people that weren't featured on this special that are in my top 5, so it's okay. Now, back to this. I have to say, I really feel bad for Meagan Martin, because it's one of those things where she fell hitting the tramp, kind of like Kacy Catanzaro did years before, where she just overthought it and missed the trampoline. And that's just the worst way to go out, right, man? Because it's not really going out based on any physical prowess. It's just a small mistake, but I feel like that was kind of anticlimactic.
Yeah, it was kind of, I wanted to see more people trying the double wedge. And, you know, Chris went out on it really fast, and then we didn't have a second one because Meagan Martin fell. So stage 2 was a little bit of a bust, but we'll move on to stage 3, which was really exciting. We got to see, so that meant Team Akbar was out. So we had Team Matt versus Christine in stage 3.
Where every competitor, they had to ram it down our throats that this competitor has never made it to stage 3. I think that was very telling. I'll just start with that. I'm like, yeah. Interesting. I wonder why these teams are chosen. Okay.
It was nice to see Chris Wilczewski get lots of airtime this season, and this was a continuation of that, so that was good. He's done so much for the sport. Mm-hmm. And he is so incredibly talented, and we get to see him show off a little bit. And this portion of the episode had one of the greatest comebacks, I guess if we want to call it, in ANW history, because normally they don't really trash talk each other, but that was a pretty great one. Akbar starts giving Matt's team, say, hey, they're not moving fast enough, and Matt says, well, they're moving faster than your team on the sidelines.
I had no idea where you're going with that, but yeah, that's a pretty good comeback.
Yeah, I loved it, but really this came down to a showcasing of Nagi, who throughout this whole episode, but here especially, we get to see him beat the ultimate cliffhanger and the curved body prop and start into the hang climb. Like, just phenomenal after doing those other stages, that he still had that in the tank to go that far.
Yeah, well, this was big for Nagi, more so than I think people are even giving credit to, by the fact that Nagi before this was well known for his lower body prowess, his gymnastics background. He can jump really high, that we always saw that highlight. A lot of the laches he's really good at. So a lot of transition and obstacles and lower body he was really, really adept at. The question mark was Well, that's 3 checks, but what about that one, elephant in the room, the rock climbing portion, the one that gives everybody grief? He aced it. Like, he absolutely aced it. When you see this guy on that ultimate cliffhanger and just see how comfortable he was with his grip strength and of his upper body and everything, I mean, this guy is going places. So he's an all-around threat, and he really stood out to me as being probably the most impressive competitor showcased. And I don't know, man. I wasn't even going into this whole special with him even on my mind at that point. I thought there were like other people that might be highlighted, like I don't know, like Daniel Gill or maybe Josh Levin or somebody. But nope, it's Nagi Richardson just coming out being like, "Yo, bros, I'm here. What up?" And it was really good to see. So he definitely stood out, and I have to say, Nicholas Coleridge. Well, sorry, this is a recap. Why don't you keep on with that?
That's all right. I mean, we can jump around a little bit. So then Team Christine came out, and no surprise, Jesse Graff did great.
Well, hang on. Nagi went out on the rock climbing part, right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, so he transitioned over. He got a little confused on the rock climbing part.
Doesn't everybody, man?
Yeah. Every time their first
wall.
time on there, they don't give it enough thought, and they don't know where they're going to put their hands ahead of time, I think, and they just you don't have time to stop and think about it.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to know ahead of time. So yeah, he did great. He did very similar to how we've seen some of the best competitors do when they first hit that. So I thought they might have it. I really was not expecting Team Christine to beat the body prop, because that curved body prop just looks crazy to me. But they did, and did they ever? Oh my God, like that was a fantastic run. Jesse did great. I wasn't too worried about that. But Nicholas just schooled us on how to do those obstacles. Like, I have never seen anything quite like the way he went through some of the toughest obstacles in ANW as if they were nothing.
Yeah, it was quite a sight to see. It reminded me a whole lot of, it's the bad word in the Ninja Warrior community, but he reminded me a lot of Isaac Caldiero, kind of on these obstacles where he really felt poised and comfortable, and he didn't really struggle through any of them. So I was very impressed by Nicholas Coleridge with that. But not just that, I mean, he definitely displayed some of his upper body prowess as well and his grip strength. I don't know if you noticed this, man, but when he tagged off to Flip Rodriguez, and you see Flip Rodriguez going through his obstacles, in the background, all I could see the whole time is Nicholas Coleridge just hanging with one arm like a damn monkey, watching Flip Rodriguez and just smiling. The dude was like, he just went through all of these incredibly difficult obstacles, and he's not like trying to pull himself up to like, hold on or drop in the water or anything. You're just hanging there, just hanging out. Like, oh yeah, good job, man. Yeah, keep going. I'm like, dude, how are you not in like immense pain right now? It was quite funny to see, and I felt really bad. I had to like rewind it to watch like Flip Rodriguez because that's all I could see.
I didn't even notice that. No, I'll have to take a look back and see what he was doing. But no, I kind of thought of it as smart strategy, right? Like, because they were talking, you could see them even talking strategy ahead of time, that I assumed that they decided that he didn't have to keep anything in the tank. He wouldn't have to do some of the stuff ahead of, some of the earlier obstacles, and he didn't have to do the later obstacles, so he could just do the hang climb with just his hands as long as he did it quickly and he knew which holds to use. Mm-hmm. That as long as he planned it out, that was okay, right? So he could completely exhaust himself, but now that you say that, I guess he didn't. So there goes that theory.
Yeah, but once again, there is the addendum where everything's relative. All these competitors are so good and everything just because they haven't dealt with, I don't know, like 5 rounds of obstacles prior to these where their arms are completely worn out. So there is an addendum to how well we are seeing these competitors do these obstacles.
Right. It's one thing to do a third of stage 3. It's another thing to do them all yourself. So
yeah, right after stage 1 and 2 also.
Yes. So it was very cool to see Flip come down the final stretch and hit that buzzer, though. I was very excited to see it. I'm sure that must have felt really good. And yeah, hopefully we'll get to see that next year. I'd love to see it.
Good for Flip. I'm sure that was like a big deal for him, just to like hit that buzzer.
So that was it. They hit the buzzer. They won. Team Christine took it home. Not too surprising. They had a pretty strong team. I think that would have been where my money was if you had pinned me down at the beginning, but I thought they were pretty balanced. And it was lots of fun to watch.
Yeah, so what's up with Christine being like, oh, do you know what we do now? We all jump in the water. And of course, she's like, she doesn't jump in the water.
Yeah, they should have thrown her
like,
in the water.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, you don't order your team to jump in the water and you don't. Like, come on, I don't care if you're wearing a dress or whatever. You're going to have everybody jump in the water. You better get in there too. Yeah,
I think she was trying to make it, like a big fun thing that they did, but
awkward.
Yeah, it wasn't just a little awkward. It was very awkward.
Yeah.
But they were good sports about it, and it looked fun once they did, but it was a strange thing to kind of suggest to them.
So moving on to the skills, man. You know what's funny is, like, last year, looking back at this, I totally forgot there even was a team competition, because all I remember was the skills competitions.
Yeah, that stood out last year, but I thought they did a better job with the... I think having the 3 teams helped a little bit, and I don't know, it was just a better... No, it was still fun and everything. It's just the skills competition is so incredibly fun. That's all that was on my mind. And once again, the skills competition portion of this special really was just the paramount part of it. It was so good. It was. So before we actually get into the ones that we got to see, and I don't think you went online, you can actually watch all of the ones that were fast forwarded. But I want to kind of touch on those for a second.
I saw them.
Oh, you did watch them. Okay, so they fast forwarded 3 of them. The Thunderbolt, which was basically a pegboard challenge, and in that one it was Jesse Graff, Brian Arnold, Travis Rosen, and Jeff Britton.
So happy that is some perfect like choices for this competition. I was excited.
Yeah, I loved all the choices they made for these. I thought they were all really good. Jeff Britton ended up taking it home. It didn't even look like it was all that close in the end. He just dominated.
Are you surprised? Come on, man. I was like, Popeye's got this. I thought Brian Arnold might have a shot, maybe based on technique, because Brian Arnold's the only other guy that's not going to tire out on this. But Jeff Britton, man, next level with that.
Yeah, it was nice to see him again, basically, at all. But yeah, it's weird that was the only thing that we saw him on.
That was very weird. I mean, I have no idea how they chose the competitors for the skills competitions, because there are some where you can definitely see a Jeff Britton or some other competitor fitting in perfectly for the skills thing. And then we have some competitors that are popping up all over the place, like Nagi and Flexer Lebrec, and I didn't mind them, but at the same time, I'm like, that's interesting. It's obviously not something where, only a competitor can choose 2 things or something like that. I mean, I'm just curious how they chose the competitors. That's all.
Yeah, there's some odd choices along the way. The striding steps, that was interesting. It was basically just running along some very small pedestals, for lack of a better word, and then swinging on a rope and then going back. And we had Jake Murray versus Kacy Catanzaro, Thomas Stillings, and Daniel Gill. And you would think they would showcase that more, but when you watch the video, it's not that exciting to watch, really.
I would say it's one of the lesser interesting competitions, but I'm still glad it was there, because I think it was a good opportunity to showcase more of the free running fast competitors. And I felt like, once again, the people chosen were fit in perfectly for it. So I was excited for it, and I don't know, I think I might have enjoyed more so the competitors involved with the competition than the competition itself. I feel like they could have maybe put in a few other things that might have made it a little bit more difficult. Maybe having the steps, different levels, different heights, maybe side to side. They could have done some stuff with it. And maybe next year we'll see them. I don't know why I keep saying next year. Maybe this year we'll see, them switch it up a little bit. But I'm glad they still had something for the fast free running type of competitors.
Yeah, I think it was missing something. I don't know what that is, whether you need to put like a bar that they need to duck under or flip over or something. There needed to be something more than just those steps back and forth.
You know what,
it missed something in display, but I was very excited to see Thomas Stillings ended up winning it, though.
Yeah, that was awesome. And I must say, I think these competitions might do a little bit better if they had 6 competitors rather than 4. Because even with these 4 competitors, I can still see like maybe a Flip Rodriguez or somebody like him running it also, where you get all excited. You know, another speed demon. So that might be another thing that maybe we can see moving on. And yeah, if there's one thing I definitely have to applaud NBC for more than anything else is the fact that, hey, even though they fast forwarded these competitions, and I have no issues with that, they still had the full competitions available online for everybody to watch. That was really cool. I very much appreciate that.
Yes, and I'm going to link all of those competitions in the show notes. So if you want to check them out, you can stop by ninjapodcast.com or just click on them in whatever podcatcher you're in, because they're all going to be there. And it is very. I'm glad you said that, because I almost forgot that. Yes, thank you for putting them online. That is all we ask.
Yes, and the one that everybody needs to watch, because I felt it. Even though it was the 3rd fast forwarded competition, I think it was one of the funnest competitions that we saw altogether, and that was the big air one, dude. That was so fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and that one actually featured quite a bit of competitors. I think there was featured like 6 competitors on that one, and it's a very simple thing. You jump off, kind of like a high board or something onto a trampoline, and then just try to grab this ledge that goes higher and higher. But I found it really fun and enjoyable.
Yeah, they've taken all of the little elements of a ninja course and broken them out into just ridiculously exaggerated versions of themselves, right? So when you look at the Thunderbolt, it's pegboards, striding steps. They've got the parkour, strides. But Big Air Grab is all about trampoline skills, right? How high can they bounce and grab onto one of these boards? And they brought in some great, I don't know who else you would pick. It's perfect. Brent Steffensen.
Oh, the Giant. Definitely. That's the one person that definitely stood out that was not there.
You think?
Once again, there's always somebody I feel like, yeah, the Giant should have been there.
He's got the height, but I've never seen him really demonstrate like crazy trampoline skills.
No, but there's only one way to find out. I definitely think he's got the hops available to do it.
And they always have to throw in Meagan Martin, really, when it comes down to it. So I'm actually kind of surprised. It would have been a good place to put Jessie, probably.
Yeah.
I think she's got the good trampoline skills. Because she demonstrated when she beat that ridiculous obstacle that we hate so much.
Hourglass drop,
yeah. Yeah, so that was her showcasing that. So I don't know. We had anyway. In the bottom line, we had Brent Steffensen
for that one,
Kevin Bull, Meagan Martin, Grant McCartney, and Nicholas Coolidge. And I am not too surprised that Nicholas Coolidge ended up coming home with that one.
Nope. And I just have to say it's quite amusing that, of course, the competition Nicholas Coolidge wins is fast forwarded over. It's kind of apropos at this point.
What is with that guy?
Oh, it's just so funny. I was going to say this later, but I'll just say it now. And this is a little game for you, Rich, and everybody at home. So I'm going to give some stats for everybody on Nicholas Coolidge on this whole episode. Nicholas Coolidge won 2 group rounds in the team competition. And he won a skills competition. So he had 3 times where he was featured predominantly, right? He had 2 interview segments. Throughout this entire special, how many words did he say? I counted them. How many words did he say? What do you think?
I'm going to guess 13.
3.
3? No, he did not.
And he said that only when the microphone was away from him. The only words he said featured on this entire episode was, let me get it, climb the rope. He only responded, climb the rope, when Christine Leahy was like, guess what you're going to do now? And he said, climb the rope. But Christine Leahy never gave him an opportunity to speak. In both interview segments, she interviewed his teammates, but they never interviewed him, or they didn't feature it. It's almost a joke at this point. I genuinely think there are people that love this guy on American Ninja Warrior, but somebody on the editing room floor hates this guy. Somebody has it out for him, and once again, I am going detective mode on their buds. There's more to this story, dude.
He did something to NBC because remember on Celebrity Apprentice, he got fast-forwarded.
He got cut too. Yeah. Oh, poor Nick. Like, well, obviously Matt Eisman loves this guy, else he wouldn't be there. Yeah, Nick's a good guy and he's friends with everybody, but somebody on that editing room floor has it out for him. And it's just too funny at this point.
You know what I was thinking of? He does have a little bit of a longer interview when he wins the competition, but that's on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's on YouTube for a reason. Because they're like, nope, he's not making it on television.
Yeah, I think that's bottom line might be that he needs to work on his interview skills a little bit, which, it happens to everybody. They're not professional speakers for the most part.
Telling you, Nick, if you're listening, take off that shirt. Get that horse abs, shtick. Get it all glistening and glossy and, some sparkle to it. I'll feature you all day.
Doesn't matter where you fall in the course.
Nope. All right, moving on.
Yeah, moving on to some of the competitions they did feature. The Endless Invisible Climb.
What a name. So
yes, the 75-foot invisible
that does
climb.
End, right? Like, I'm like, because even when they were saying it, when they were describing it, they kept referring to it as endless, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Maybe at the top, like they have to keep on going until, like maybe just like switch back and forth with their arms or something. I don't know, but I was like, no, it's not only endless. Every competitor that went on this thing finished it. So I found that just an interesting title, to say the least. I feel like they could have made it at least a little bit long. I don't know. Maybe they weren't expecting everybody to finish it. I mean, 75 feet is quite high, especially for the invisible ladder, dude.
Yeah, because we talked about that when they first showed it. We kind of joked about maybe they'll make that the Mount Midoriyama.
Mount Midoriyama, yeah. And dude, I have to say, still to this day, I think it's way better than them climbing a damn rope for the fourth stage.
But here's the thing. Did you get the impression that they were being pulled up a bit? Because I kind of did.
I didn't feel that.
It seemed like even on their downswings, they were moving up a bit. And maybe I'm being unfair, and maybe I totally misread it, but it certainly looked that way to me, and I don't know. I didn't go over with a fine-tooth comb. I don't even know if you can be
pulled up that way, because half the competitors were going in a technique where they're using their core to lift their legs up. I think more than anything else is that the fact that they weren't tired out going into this particular skills competition, rather than when you see, the invisible ladder at the end of stage 1, where their arms are completely burned out and they have nothing left, because the one part of your body that's going to build up lactic acid more than anything else is going to be your arms and your forearms. Your biceps and your forearms. Guess what? They are completely fresh going into this. So somebody like Beast McGrath can completely pump the entire time up that 75 feet. And I think that has a lot to do with it. If you look at it, I think it has much more to do with the fact that they were just going at a breakneck speed. They were completely fresh, and they were able to do it a lot easier. I mean, it's the same thing with that salmon ladder that we see later on. I mean, you see everybody falling after 3 rungs or 4 rungs of the salmon ladder, but yet these guys are going up 35 rungs. There's a reason for that.
Yeah, it makes some sense. And I don't want to give the impression that I was trying to suggest that that it wasn't impressive, because it absolutely was. It was amazing. It just seemed like maybe they were, I don't know, that they were keeping it very tight for safety reasons, and maybe it was helping them out a little bit along the way. But I could be totally wrong with that. All the same, I absolutely enjoyed it. I liked who they picked for this. This was like definitely outside of the norm. Like the rest of the episode had a lot of repeated ninjas, and this was a nice little subset. We got to see James McGrath versus Ryan Stratus, and Jamie Ron versus Chris Wolcheski. I
was so happy.
I mean, that was perfect to see Jamie versus Chris, the two that had, struggled on the invisible ladder in the season. I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah, it was so perfect, and it was new faces for these type of competitions, and there was some backstory also with them, where we all know that Jamie Ron and Chris Wolcheski are close friends, and they're from the same area, so it was good to see them competing against each other, Beast McGrath, the one thing, if we had 6 competitors, I would have loved to see Beast McGrath versus Drew Dreschel, because we know they are like BFFs. These types of things are really fun. And more than anything else, once again, we're seeing an underestimated competitor kind of show off their main skills. And I think that's the best part about the skills competition, that we get people like Mike Bernardo that sometimes is overlooked, but, such a hallmark or foundation of the hardcore ninjas. We get people like Nicholas Coleridge finally getting some airtime and showing off his skills. We get people like Beast McGrath, who's been here forever, and everybody knows he's so great, but yet they don't feature him as like one of the top ninjas traditionally. It just blows my mind sometimes that they don't get that recognition, but yet they do get that airtime and show off their skills with the skills competitions. And I loved that, dude.
Yeah, it was so much fun to watch. We get to see that matchup with James and Ryan. Both of them look great, but James showed that he is like amazingly good at this. And when we get to see Jamie versus Chris, which was a great race, very neck and neck through most of it, which Jamie ended up beating Chris in the end, I really didn't have any question who was going to win the finale, did you?
Nope. I mean, as soon as I saw Beast McGrath, I was like, he's going to beat whoever is on there. This is his schoolhouse, and I was happy for him. I was happy that he was featured on it, because you could have easily just seen them just shoe in some person that are featuring heavily, like a Nagi. You can easily see Nagi on that.
Yeah, I would have liked to see them bring in somebody a little more unconventional, that has done really well on it in the past. Do you know who actually killed it on the Invisible Ladder? Is Sam San.
Sam San, man. Yeah, that's a good one. I would have said Brian Arnold or something.
Yeah, there's been a couple of them that have done it and made it look super easy, and Sam was one of them.
Yeah, that actually would have been a great choice, because he definitely fits a different mold. I mean, with everything we're saying, I have to say they did it perfectly with the salmon ladder in terms of like way out there choices, right? But with the invisible ladder, yeah, but once again, I can't argue with what they have. Probably time restraints is why they only had 4 competitors featured, but I feel like it would have been really fun having at least 6.
You know what's funny is the way they edit these things. I'm not going to be surprised if we get some emails telling us, oh, they actually ran 8 or they ran 10. They just didn't, they cut them all out.
Touche. Yeah, that could have happened.
But yeah, that was really cool to watch. No complaints. Then we moved on to the Super Salmon Ladder.
Yes.
It was like one of the highlights of last year, and it was really great to see again Mike Bernardo defending his championship. And I was really interested in who they brought in to challenge him. It was not who I would have guessed.
Nope.
It was Jon Stewart, Jesse Lebrecq, and Karsten Williams. Those were 3 choices. If you gave me an hour to choose ninjas, I don't know if I would have picked any of those 3.
And you know what? Joke's on me, because going into this, I had to really think back of who Karsten Williams was, and I really felt bad. I was like, I know this guy, obviously, but I couldn't tell you where he placed last season on American Ninja Warrior. And I'm like, that is a really interesting choice, but he must have some skills for why they're choosing him. So, I went into open-minded, but I definitely saw some blowback also of people like, since there's timestamps, on Twitter and everything, people are like going into this being like, why is Carson there? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, give him a chance. And yeah, this is the one competition where I feel like it would be perfectly suited for 8 competitors, because there's a whole lot of names that I would love to see also give this a try. I feel like it's the story of Carson versus Mike Bernardo for the title, right? And kind of the tortoise and the hare. I saw that meme online, and it was so perfect. But
it kind of is.
Yeah, but the other story is just 2 competitors of Flex Lebrecq and Jon Stewart going as far as they could, and just how astounding it is to see these competitors do that well. Jon Stewart is deep in his 50s, guys. This dude has grandkids, and they sure reminded us of that, obviously. But when you really think about how old this guy is, and the fact that he got up that far, was it 25 rungs, 24 rungs, something like that, dude?
25, yeah.
25 rungs. That is phenomenal. I mean, that is unheard of. And I even brought in my dad, who's just a little bit older than him, and I showed him that, and my dad was astounded because my dad couldn't even fathom doing one rung, let alone 25. And then we have Flex Lebrecq just amazing everybody and reinvigorating just what women are capable of. I mean, we saw last year with Kacy Catanzaro doing this, but Flex Lebrecq just put it in another level. And this was a skills competition that was perfectly suited for Flex Lebrecq. I mean, if we were to see Jesse Graff or Kacy Catanzaro or something, I'd be like, that's cool and all. But the one name that I would think in my head that's perfectly suited for a competition where it's all about upper body complete strength and beast moding it is Flex Lebrecq. So I'm so happy to see her there. So we got to see those two. Oh, sorry. Why don't you talk about how they felt? I'm just ranting and raving, dude.
No, that's cool because that's what this episode's all about, really. So yeah, John made it to 25. Kacy did 11 last year, and Jesse made it to 19, which is amazing. When you put it in context of you looking at the, Karsten and Mike going, to the top of this thing, that doesn't seem quite as impressive, but you got to think about what that means. Watching a normal salmon ladder is impressive most of the time, and they're doing like 3, 4, 5 of these things right in a row. So it's absolutely phenomenal when you think about what they're doing.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's 7 times the length of a regular salmon ladder, 5-piece rung salmon ladder. With that said, when you saw Karsten go up, I mean, did you think he had a shot? Because I was like, oh man,
nope. I didn't think he was going to beat either. I don't think he was going to beat Jesse or Karsten or John because he was struggling
like 10
before
or something, right?
Yeah, he didn't look like he was going to hit a dozen of them. There's no way.
Yeah, I mean, joke's on me. I mean, I guess he was pacing himself. I'm curious about his strategy for it, but it could have just been go up 10, take a breather, because this guy is, pretty muscular and built also. And you definitely saw him taking his time, but he got all the way up there, and he still had room in the tank to even go down a few. And props to him. I mean, that was impressive. If you were to go down the entire 35, I mean, give him all the records, all the damn medals. That would have been so
thought he
dope.
was going to. I really was starting to think he was going to do it.
I kind of did too. That was fun. By the way, when they were dropping these guys, they dropped them from so high up, and they didn't slow them down too much. I was getting really worried for these people.
Like, jeez, give them a break.
Yeah, guys. Like, this was legit about, I mean, there's a foot difference in each rung. There are 35 rungs, and they're already elevated. So you're looking at maybe 40 feet in the air. And they're just dropping these guys. It's kind of slowed them down, but when you see them drop, they dropped. And I was like, oh my God. It was interesting.
And Jesse's had said that she was afraid of heights, too, or a little bit scared of heights. So that didn't probably help anything.
I can imagine, yeah.
But Mike got up there and started just banging them out. Oh my God, that is so entertaining to watch him just tick, 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 his way up that salmon ladder. But he started struggling near the top. He just maybe went a little too fast. It's hard to say.
He went too fast, and you need a rhythm for the salmon ladder. The one thing about salmon ladder is it's very much based on rhythm, and his rhythm got hampered up quite towards the middle part, and he kept having to readjust. And every time you readjust, that's doing another transition of a salmon ladder where you're doing another kip up and wasting more explosive energy. So I feel like because of those mess ups and him maybe going a little too fast, he completely blew himself out. And I got to give him props for gutting it out all the way to the 34th rung. But that was really heartbreaking to see, right, man?
It definitely was. He went out, for those that didn't see it, if you didn't, stop listening to us and go watch it immediately, but he went out 1 rung shy. He was definitely way faster, but he just fell 1 rung shy of it. He was struggling through the last few and just couldn't quite make it. And I have to recommend, for anyone that hasn't listened, the Wolfpack Ninja podcast has an interview with Mike, and he talks about his doing the salmon ladder and everything, and it's really interesting why he's so good at it. Is basically, and I hope I don't screw this up too much because it's been a while since I listened to it, but basically that he's a bigger guy and he couldn't do it the way other people do it. So he developed his own kind of shorthand technique that used as little energy as possible so he could do it really quickly. And it really works in this situation.
Yeah, he's definitely very explosive when he does it, and you can definitely see it. His technique's different, and his approach to it is different, and it works for him, and it's really entertaining.
Yeah, because he doesn't use the full range of motion. If you watch most people, they kind of fully extend and then, and do it that way. He keeps it very locked in and only uses like the minimal amount of effort to move it rung to rung to rung.
Mm-hmm. But that's the problem also, is when somebody like with that technique gets tripped up and it's like one rung is a little bit lesser, you have to keep up, and somebody with that doesn't train on that all the time, it's going to use a whole lot more energy. Yeah. So that kind of explains what happened there, guys. All right, what's next, man?
Next, we got the Mega Wall. Like, it's just one fantastic thing after another. Like, I wish I had recorded my reactions. My wife was like texting me, giving me a hard time because I was at the other end of the house disturbing her. I was yelling so much and going crazy.
Hey, it's fun, dude.
So for the Mega Wall, they chose John Alexis Jr., no kidding, Jesse Lebrec again, Nagi Richardson again, Flip Rodriguez, and Joe Moravsky. I was so happy to see those two back for this competition.
Yeah, I was happy to see Joe because I was worried that Joe would get the shaft too, because they're featuring Nagi and Flex Lebrec on everything. And Flip obviously is going to come back, and Alex Rodriguez, he should be there obviously for the one person where it's like, well, you can see them giving the shaft to is Joe Moravsky, and I'm so happy he was able to stay for that. With that said, man, there are some names that I would have liked to see also added to it, but I'm quite all right with the people chosen. How impressive was Flex Lebrec on this thing? I did not, I couldn't even fathom with her height and everything about it, because when you look at Flex Lebrec, you just see a woman that's going to be so good at upper body stuff. And, me and you, Rich, we know her background. We know she can kill all this lower body stuff. But I feel like to the layman at home, they weren't expecting this from her.
Yeah, and I think that she needs like a shirt that's like a silhouette of that little pose she does just before she runs, that little lean back. I think that is like iconic now. I think that's kind of like burned into my brain as when I picture her doing that. It's like, what is she doing? All of a sudden she just explodes up the wall. It was great. I loved it.
That's a good point, man. I didn't think of that, but that is a really cool pose, and that could be like a little hallmark for her.
Yeah, kind of like the Stratus stand. Oh, why can't I think of the pose? It's called the Stratusing when the way he poses before he goes.
Just had to go there.
Yeah, kind of.
It's like Grant McCartney dancing before his run. All right.
Yeah, exactly. And she's got her own thing now. She's got to keep using it no matter what she's doing. Just force that in there. But yeah, it was great to see her do it. She did the wall at 17 feet. A couple years ago, we were like, oh, will a woman ever surmount the warped wall at 14 feet?
Oh, boy.
And she's doing it at 17 feet.
And how tall is she? She's like,
I don't know.
She's so short, and yet she's just beast moding this. Like, I have no excuses in my life at all. She's just schooling everybody, man.
But then you look at Nagi, he's only 5'7". I mean, most of them aren't that tall. I think Flip's a little more on the lanky side, but I mean, Nagi that kept going on was 5'7". That's barely taller than me.
No, Nagi's great. Man, it was astounding how far he got in this competition. When you think about his height and the height of that wall, it is absurd just how far in this competition he got. Yeah,
the one thing, before we move on to where it all ended up, I gotta say, at the 18-foot mark, I kind of thought Flip was going to land on his head for a second, the way he jumped out from that wall. That was dangerous looking.
That was scary. I mean, that's my big fear is whenever I attempt the warped wall, is I kind of do that, where I jump backwards. And I feel like I'm going to break my neck. And that's the one thing that I will say about the warped wall, where it's like, I feel like eventually we're going to see somebody that's going to just, the first time they're ever doing is trying it on the show. and they're going to make a mistake like that. I'm glad he was able to catch himself, but that is one component to the sport where, the danger is real, guys, and that was quite troublesome. Not to mention the fact that of how high he was.
Yeah, I feel like if anyone's going to do that, Flip's probably the best one in a weird way to have that happen, because we've seen him take a fall and we know he prepares himself for missing things, right, from his parkour background. So
me and you in particular have seen him fall.
Yeah, exactly. We're watching Jump City Seattle. So I think he probably already knows what he'll do. If he jumps too far back, he already knows that to tuck and roll or whatever he needs to do to catch himself.
Yeah. He definitely knows probably how to land correctly. With that said, I like the one quote he had going into this where he's like, nobody really has a 19-foot warped wall, so I don't really know how to train for this. I'm just going to go and try my hardest. And it's like, yeah, touche, man. It's like, there's no training for this.
Yeah, what do you do? No one builds walls that big, so they just kind of have to try to figure it out there. And I love how it all came down in the end. So we've got the main guys moved on all the way to 19 feet. We still had all four men still in it. But really, it came down to at that height, David versus Goliath. I when he said that, I went, "Oh God,
what
really?"
What a perfect analogy.
For those that don't know, Flip's real name is David, and we have the giant. How perfect is that?
It's so true in so many aspects, and it was a little cute that David Rodriguez is going against the giant, but yeah, I have to say I was quite surprised. I thought Flip was at least going to get that 19. What did you think, man?
I thought he might, but the way he struggled with the 18 feet, I wasn't quite sure. I thought one of them would. I kind of thought Joe would. Joe is so competitive. You can see it in his eyes. He was not happy about missing it out last year.
Oh, you're so mad. Yeah. Joe's such a nice guy. You can just see it. He's stewing inside. He's like, damn it.
Oh, he is so competitive. It's just oozing out of him. It's so fun to watch him because you just see it getting to him. He just wants to win so bad.
Yeah, well, why don't you go into the Giants?
Yeah, so in the end, John Alexis Jr. ends up taking it home. The guy, for those who don't realize, he's 6'6", I believe. He's really crazy tall.
He's crazy tall, and I'm happy for him. I mean, obviously, without much to say, this particular skills competition suits him quite well. And I'm looking forward to next special because we're going to have all these upcoming stories where, the defending champ got dethroned barely from a person coming in, a new person, and now will the champion, reclaim his prize. And I don't know, I kind of like those stories. I'm really looking forward to them.
And all I can picture is Joe now building a 20-foot warped wall in his backyard.
That could happen. I don't know. Is Joe Morosky, does he build stuff?
No, but he will now. I really feel like he might.
That's the one. Huh?
That's the one that'll do it. You know what? The hang climb thing might have done him in a couple times, but I feel like the warped wall is really, really picking at his brain.
I think he might have some other ones bothering him. Yeah. Now, with that said, we have the for me, the funnest part of the skills competition for last.
Yeah, the supersonic shelf grab was my favorite from last season, and this season, do they script this stuff? It was absolutely amazing. I couldn't have planned it out any better. It was so fun to watch, and the results were so amazing.
And you know what's so fun? It's so simple. When you think about it, if you were to have this, all these things on a sheet, you would never think this is the one that's going to be, so amazing to watch. But something about it visually is just so fun, man.
It's Drew. Well, actually, and Nagi both.
I was about to say, I might say Nagi might even, I don't know. Nagi, his technique with his laches is just breathtaking, dude. It's something to behold.
I actually showed that to the wife. I had to. I'm like, you have to see what they do. And she just gasped. How can they do that? Because they go vertical on one side of it and fling themselves 14, 15 feet across and catch themselves by just their hands.
It's insane.
It is unreal to watch. I'd like to think some of the rock climbers could do better because of their grip strength, because we did see Isaac do really well. But at the same time, getting that swing going must be a skill set all its own.
Well, the swing is based on core and a bunch of different factors also with like technique and everything. So the thing about this is there's a whole lot of a slew of factors that go into this. You have to have perfect timing for grabbing it, and we definitely saw that come into play with this competition. You need that grip strength to grab onto that shelf because you are flying so far and so fast. When you land on that, there is so much downward pressure on your fingers. It has got to be so incredibly hard to hold on. Obviously, you need the forearm strength that you were alluding to with the rock climbers to fling yourself that far. But for such a simple competition, there's a whole lot more technique involved with it than probably any of the other competitions. And I felt the Nagi and Drew in particular really demonstrated how good a person can be with it. And I don't know, this was the one where it really cemented Nagi as somebody special to look out for.
Yeah, definitely. And just before because we're jumping ahead a little bit here, it was Nagi and Drew in the end, but they also started with Brett Sims and Meagan Martin, who both did the first jump, but kind of quickly went out afterwards. It
was the story of the two. Come on.
It was, but I felt bad because I thought this was a chance for Brett Sims to kind of shine. I thought this was going to be his chance to show what he could do. It didn't end up being that way, unfortunately, but hopefully he'll get another chance next year.
I definitely feel if there is one, please producers, where you're going to give 8 people a shot or 6 people a shot rather than 4, it is this one. This needs to have much more competitors featured because this is obviously the one that everybody enjoys watching. And yeah, that's all I'll say to that. Now, the 2 in the end, man, they just kept going and going further and further. I couldn't believe how far Nagi was keeping up with Drew because I feel bad. Nagi's so good, but there was always this thing in my brain where I'm like, well, Drew, I know he could have gone further, and Drew's like, there's always that placement where it's like, oh, I'll be shocked if Drew doesn't get this, but Nagi just kept prevailing further and further and really stuck in there and just so good.
I love that they gave them another shot. So at the 15-foot mark, yeah, it's like, you know what? We don't want, if we can help it, we'll give a tie if it has to be a tie, but we want to give them another chance to see if one of them can do it at 15 feet. And that was great. I like that.
So they both fell at 15 feet. Neither one made it. And they definitely said, let's go again. And that, as you said, that was perfect. Nagi went and he got so close. But I have to say, he had one of the best wipeouts I've ever seen.
Oh my God.
That was scary, but when he was okay, I just watched back and I'm like, oh my God, that was impressive. This dude, like, how many flips did he do in the air? He flew like 15 feet, super fast, right? Grabs onto the thing, let's go, and just starts spinning out of control like a damn yo-yo. It was amazing.
Oh yeah. It was, Ellie said it was incredibly terrifying at first. I thought he was going to break his neck. And then once you realized he was okay, I was like, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I was scared for him to do it again, though. I almost didn't want them to try it again. I thought one of them's going to get hurt doing that.
Yeah, they definitely dodged a bullet on that one because Nagi really could have hurt himself. But I'm glad he's okay. And I don't know how Drew held on to that shelf when he went. Because when you watch the replay of how Drew did it and the speed of how fast his body was like propelling itself forward, how he was able to catch himself and hold on, it's amazing to me. I have no idea how he did it.
You see, there's like the momentum carries them through and up, and like if there wasn't supports and stuff in there, you wonder if they would have like spin right around. Like if there was something else, like if it was a bar, like a trapeze they're grabbing, if they wouldn't just spin in a full circle, they're going so fast. Or
like dislocate your shoulders, or like there's so many bad things that can happen, but none of them happen. So I'm happy. But
I think I said last year when we watched it last year, I said if they moved it out another foot, I was worried that Drew was going to keep going until his arms actually came off.
That can happen. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, that was a special. There's two notes that I definitely have, and it's not a big thing, but for the hardcores, it definitely stood out to me, and it cemented a certain controversy that we had from 2 years ago. Now, that is, every time they brought up Jeff Britton on this special, they always referred to him as Jeff Britton, the first American Ninja Warrior. And it wasn't just once, it was multiple times on this special. So, controversy's over, everybody. Everybody can breathe a sigh of relief. Jeff Britton officially to American Ninja Warrior, and everything how it should be is called the first American Ninja Warrior, and I'm very happy about that. One thing that was interesting, they only showed Isaac Caldiero once for the supersonic grab or whatever it's called, and that was the only time. Not only did they feature him because they had to, because he was a co-champion, but they only referred to him as Isaac Caldiero. They never brought back to the fact that he won the show, never brought back to anything. So that's very curious. But more than anything else, I'm just happy Jeff Britton is finally getting the notoriety he should have before from the show.
Yeah, glad to put that controversy behind us for sure. Jeff is the first American Ninja Warrior. So we're just looking for the next one now. And we're going to have to try to figure out who that's going to be with our ANW Fantasy picks. Again, plugging it again, ANWFantasy.com. Everyone needs to get their teams in. I still have to pick mine. And now that Nagi, the cat is out of the bag with Nagi Richardson, I feel like I almost have to change up my picks.
Yeah. You go ahead and do that, Rich. Have fun.
Yeah. Oh, one thing about him, and we've been going on about him almost as much as they did. I thought this was his rookie year, but it sounds like it's his sophomore year. It's actually his second year.
Interesting. Not sure. I mean, he could just be like Jeff Britton, where his freshman year, he's not really featured all that well, and then his sophomore year, he really stands out. I mean, a lot of people forget the fact that Jeff Britton, when he won the show, it wasn't his first year. It was actually his second year.
Yeah.
So it could be the same.
I think it was. Let's plow through here. We've got... sorry, do you have any final thoughts on the whole special? Anything else you want to add?
No, I enjoyed it, and I look forward to ANW USA versus the world. A lot of people are like, "Where is it at?" Blah blah blah. I mean, calm down, everybody. If you look back from last year, it's going to air sometime within the next 2 months. Usually, if I remember correctly, Rich, it usually airs like a little bit before the season begins, right?
The last one did for sure. It was just before.
It leads into it, yeah.
Yeah, which
So that's probably what's going to happen.
Terrible idea. I don't know why they do that, but whatever. Let's press on to Ninja Warrior UK, and we'll keep this one short.
Do we have to?
All the positivity and how much love we had for ANW All Stars was definitely offset by pressing our way through Ninja Warrior UK. And I'm sorry, Universal Tuber in particular has said that it was going to get better with the semifinals. It most definitely did not. It did not get any better at all. Well, maybe a little bit. Maybe.
No. This show is crap. Whoever that host is can go just screw himself. I hate this show. It's so bad because they're trying so hard to be Wipeout. And I would just rather watch Wipeout because Wipeout at least embraces what they're going for. This is a show kind of like Spartan where it's trying to have this serious competition, but all they're doing is just crapping all over it with the theme and the tone that they're presenting on the show. It's painful. I hate it.
Okay, so before we get into any of the competitors, I don't have a whole lot of notes on this, to be honest, because it just wasn't really bringing me in at all. The course was a little harder, but certainly wasn't comparable to stage 1 and stage 2. Like once they went up the warped wall, I'm not even going to go into all the little things but they ran like basically a normal qualifying course.
It was Team Ninja Warrior course. That's basically what it was. It was a Team Ninja Warrior course, and I have to say, since my standards were so low, I was at least happy to see somewhat more difficult obstacles. To be honest with you,
yeah, they weren't too bad.
Yeah, so I can't complain about that. But the way they presented the competitors again, I just couldn't care enough. Like there's just no emotional impact. It was a thing that I was fearing going into this episode where it's like, I don't know these competitors. They're not presenting these competitors well to make me like involved with them. I only cared about a few of them. And I will say this. There were some standouts for this episode, and they definitely stood out for me. But it was the tale of, once again, 95% of this episode was just, I couldn't care less.
Yeah, it was just goofy falls for a lot of it. But the first one got me. The first one out the gate actually did make me laugh because they built him up so much, the ninja engineer, and they did all this whole big thing, and he had the measuring taped out. All this production, and he ends up falling on the second step. That did make me laugh out loud. I couldn't help it. That did get me. But for the most part, it all fell flat. It was just not that entertaining. But before we get into the competitors, I do have to say, stage 2, they have the nerve to call it stage 2, is they have 3 minutes to complete the normal Team Ninja Warrior course with a little bit added difficulty. They hit the buzzer, and then they do 3 more obstacles. The Big Dipper, the Pole Grasper, and then a 7-meter chimney climb, they call it. It's basically just a spider climb. That is in stage 2. I don't know how you could possibly call that anywhere close to a stage 2. It's not even as big as the shrunk down stage 1 you have.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's whatever. I don't really care about the naming, but I will say that the one thing that I was kind of happy about, you were bringing up the pole grasper. When I saw it, I was like, it's just a pole grasper. But actually, all the poles swung independently in different ways. And that was a quite an interesting little tidbit where it adds a little bit more difficulty, where they're not just stationary, where you can grab onto it and hold. And I found that pretty cool. But once again, that's the course is whatever, but it's how you present the competitors running the course that makes the show. And they're just failing at all aspects of that.
They had one good one. Sorry, I want to say that there was one Saskia, who, by the way, sounds and looks very, very similar to like a slightly older Sophie Turner, like Sansa from Game of Thrones. Like she really, really sounded like her. She got hung up on the ring slider, like lots of people did, but she made it past stage 1 with 0.75 seconds left. That was actually that was a good nail biter. It was actually a really good part.
Yeah, her run was one of the ones that stand out to me. I really enjoyed it. That was so close, by the way.
Oh my god!
Because it wasn't just that she made it. She really struggled to make it to that point. I think she missed the wall once, right? And the clock was running down.
Yeah,
so that was really fun.
Yeah, that was really, really good part, and they needed more like that.
Yeah, because they actually took her run seriously. By the way, they weren't just laughing and joking around. They were actually like, "Come on, you can do it."
Great point. That is exactly the difference, because even the ones that were doing pretty well and falling on the back half of the course, and you're like, oh, I thought they were actually going to make it through, they're laughing like it was a big joke.
It was painful, and once again, they're just completely missing the tone of the show. Now, back to her run, though. I mean, she did amazing. They actually took it seriously, and I feel like they need to go more in that direction. Not everything has to be exactly like American Ninja Warrior, but you need to hit a certain tone for a show. And you have to go one way or the other.
Yeah, I think if they want to do the goofy aspect, it made sense to kind of do that in the first, like in the qualifiers. If that's the tone that the audience wants, then that's fine. Whatever. That's cool to have a Wipeout-like version of it for that, but at this point,
you need the presentation if you're going to hit a right tone. So once again, if you want the Wipeout type of thing, you need to present it like Wipeout. You need to have opportunities to get big splashes and make funny things, but they're not doing that.
Well, it could be a cultural thing. I don't know. It's their third season. They must be doing okay, I assume. So maybe it's just a different sense of humor.
I have some. Yeah, well, just skip that. Whatever.
Well, go ahead, because you know what? I don't even want to talk about any of the other competitors. I have nobody else. I took a couple notes, but nothing all that interesting. I don't really care about anybody else that they showed. It was just, I was falling asleep. I was literally falling asleep watching it. It really bored me to death to watch this thing.
There was a woman that completed the course. Her name was Katie, and she was just phenomenal. Not only did they take her seriously like, the other woman, but there was this kind of moment. It was kind of like Jessie Graff, where she was just kept going, and you just saw her heart, and she was in pain, and she was just gutting it out. And that run really, really invigorated me. I really enjoyed that. There was this guy who was quite big, and he wore like this tank top, like this super tight top, and I forget his name, but he was at the end of the episode, and he was older, and he was really just worn out going into the final obstacles, and he had nothing left. He was almost falling over. His legs was giving out, but yet he still just kept going on, and he was able to make it to the top, and that was really fun. So when you actually see these competitors really struggling, and they're not joking and making fun of them, and they're actually taking it seriously, it was really, really fun. But once again, those are like the highlights out of like the diamonds in the rough. A lot of this was, even with the competitors that they're supposed to take more seriously, where they're actual athletes, once again, joke after joke after joke while they're running, and they fall in, and even though it's a really tough moment, and even like exacerbated more by the fact that these are actual top athletes that are really giving it their all, once again they fall in. It's a really emotional moment for everybody, but all you hear all over the television is, "Oh, he fell in, look at that splash." And I'm just like, dude, F off, like, go away. Painful.
Yeah, it doesn't match. I don't understand, even taking, the cultural differences into account. These are people that have been, struggling for a year to train for these things, and some of them are returning champions and stuff that are, having these heartbreaking moments, and for them to kind of laugh over top of it just doesn't match up at all.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's all I have to say. I'm over this show. I really am.
We got a couple left to do, but we'll plow through those just in time for Team Ninja Warrior to kind of jump ahead a little bit to the Ninja news. Team Ninja Warrior is coming in 2 weeks. That's March 7th is going to be the premiere.
Interesting timing. Almost same time as another show.
A little similar, yeah. We'll get into that. Before we get into the rest of the Ninja news, I guess we got to cover the National Ninja League.
Oh man.
Okay, I'm sorry, everybody. This episode's
so
probably gonna be running a little long. I will cut it down as much as I possibly can, but we're gonna try to get it all into one episode here.
Let's keep moving, man. Let's keep moving.
Okay. So National Ninja League, we had Classic City. In third place was Maggie Thorne, who I believe is a listener to the podcast because she's tweeted out quite a bit. So hi, Maggie. Congratulations on getting third place. She fell in the rock holds. It looks like she was trying to use just her upper body to do it, not really engaging her feet, and just ended up going out there from, I guess, just trying to muscle her way through, when maybe technique would have been a better choice.
Shout out to Maggie Thorne. Not only is she quite well known in the ninja community, but she might be the most featured on television person that isn't your traditional Ninja Warrior. She's a really well-known Spartan racer, and big props to her with that. But I have to say, every time Jessie Graff is on television, or any of the women, she's right there always getting a reaction shot. So props to Maggie Thorne. She might be the most famous non-American Ninja Warrior All-Star there is, and she is beast moding it in the local competitions. Really happy to see that.
Yeah, so I thought, if she got third, who got second and first? And, well, it's definitely the top of the heap here. We got Michelle Warnke in second, who completed the whole course, and Kirsty Pratt took first place in this competition, which is pretty cool that we had two females complete the course. I thought this course was really interesting because it had a lot of iconic obstacles, and not really easy ones, but they definitely seem to be getting through the course a little bit easier. Bijan, do you have any insight into why they're able to do it seemingly a little easier than usual?
I mean, it was a very upper body predominant course, and it's I always make the joke, this is my kind of course because I suck so bad at balance obstacles and lower body stuff. I think this course gears to a particular type of athlete and competitor, and yeah, it's just one of those courses. I found it all really fun. I can't say it was easy at all, right? I mean, the obstacles that they were tough, but very upper body focused. And it definitely showed off an aspect where competitors can go very fast if they're, well adapted at training upper body obstacles.
Yeah, because, we had the cliffhanger, there was a body prop, a key lock hang, unstable bridge. These are all iconic ANW obstacles, they're no joke at all. But when they switch over to the men, they're like just racing through these things. Like it's just at an insane speed. In third place, we had Hunter Gerard. In second, Bryce LaRock. And in first, Sean Noel. And all three of them, it's just a blur, right? They're just going through it as fast as they can possibly move, because it was all about the time for this particular competition. It wasn't a matter of whether you finish the course. It's how fast where can you shave off those seconds? And they all did a great job.
Yeah, and two keys to this course is that there weren't a lot of transition obstacles where you're sapping your grip strength like a cannonball swing to a banana rope or something like that. There weren't those types of obstacles where
There was a cargo net though, right?
There's a cargo net, but I'm talking about ones where you're swinging and holding on with one arm and swinging to another. That saps a lot of forearm energy and grip strength. And also, we alluded to before, there weren't a lot of balance obstacles. So in terms of obstacles where it takes a lot of time, or maybe you can get to a no man's zone where you're in a dead hang, there weren't that many opportunities in this particular competition. So that's maybe why we saw everybody going a lot faster, because these were very stationary obstacles where you didn't have as many opportunities to get in a no man's zone.
All right. So that is it for our National Ninja League coverage. So let's move on to the National Ninja News.
National Ninja News.
National Ninja News. Wow. It is late at night. We have a couple more news items to cover up. As mentioned, Team Ninja Warrior Season 2 starts in 2 weeks. That is March 7th, and we're all very excited to see that. I can't even begin to describe how happy I am to see that starting up.
Have the teams been announced yet, man?
They did, I believe, but not really to the way that I would like. I was hoping to get some brackets so we could kind of go through and see who's going when, but we'll go with it. We'll just see who runs each week, and we'll cover it. It's going to be fun to see how it all kind of washes out.
Yeah, but definitely everybody look out for the week before it. We might have a little preview special. At the very least, I'm going to give my top picks for teams that are going to win it. That's going to be really fun, and I'm curious to hear everybody else's picks, maybe based on last year. We might have a better understanding of what some of the teams are. I'm interested to see what your guys' picks are to win.
So yeah, this going to be lots of fun to make our picks again and curse some poor team into losing retroactively somehow.
We are good at that.
But besides that, as if we don't have enough going on, we have Ultimate Beastmaster starting up here. When this releases, basically, by the time you hear this, Ultimate Beastmaster will be out on Netflix.
Mm-hmm. I am so thoroughly looking forward to that. And everybody, we will be covering that show. I hope you're all as enthused as I am. And one cool thing is not only are we getting completely new obstacles, a different format, like everything's new, not just that, we're getting new faces, new competitors, and these aren't just some schmucks, these are legit athletes as well. So overall, this is going to be really, really fun. I'm so psyched.
And the last little bit of ninja news that I wanted to touch on is a very sad goodbye to the Final Stage podcast, unfortunately. Arsenat has decided to kind of take a step back from Sasuke, and after 2 more episodes, they'll be wrapping it up. So, very sad to hear that. They've done a fantastic job. They are definitely the experts in the field, and will be sorely missed. It's
really unfortunate that they had to end their podcast, but I support them with whatever they do and whatever decisions they make. Both Will and Arsenet, you guys have been a really good resource to the Ninja Warrior community. I feel like everybody that's a fan of Ninja Warrior has been very much appreciative for everything you guys have done. Both the news, the passion that you've had for the sport, especially Sasuke. Your guys' breadth of knowledge when it came to Sasuke is just absolutely astounding. And you will always have not only a spot in my heart and everybody else's heart, but you'll also have a spot on the show if ever you want to join us in covering Sasuke. And on behalf of the Ninja Warrior community, we're going to miss you, and we love you guys.
Like, who's going to keep me honest now when I start spouting off facts that are completely inaccurate? I hope Arsenet's going to keep listening so that she can keep me honest on here. As Bijan said, I love you both, and I wish you all the best.
And yeah, everybody check out Arsenet's interview with Jeff Britton also. Fun stuff.
All right, so that is it for this week. So soon? I mean, really? So, I mean, we barely get started here. But thank you all for listening. We are going to be back with our continued coverage of UK Ninja Warrior and our previews for the Team Ninja Warrior. Lots to talk about. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can reach me as @NinjaPodcast on Twitter and Instagram. It is rich@ninjapodcast.com for email. And Bijan, how can they reach you?
Hit me up at Bijan151. That is BIJAN151 at Twitter and Instagram. And yeah, rate us on iTunes and everything else, guys.
Yeah, that always helps. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a fantastic week.
Peace, y'all. Love ya.